لله رب العالمين ورب كل شيء صلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا وشفيعنا يوم الدين سيدنا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. أولا أشكر إلى دكتور تاج الإسلام لأنك يساعدنا ليتم هذه البحث. في هذه البحث أن ندرس عن صفة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وهي التعاون. التعاون هو التآزر وتساعد والإسلام وإنسان اجتماعي بطبيعه يميل إلى غيره في قضاء حوائجه، فانطلبوا علينا أن ندرس هذه الصفات لكي نمارس هذه الصفات على نفسنا. يجب علينا الاقتداء بصفات النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. قال النبي إن الله بعثني لأتمم مكارم الأخلاق وأكمل محاسن الأفعال. وقد درسنا كثير من صفات النبي من كتاب السيرة خير البشر، فاستفيد مما تعلمته من هذه الكتاب وجعل من طبيعية النبي دليلا لحياتي. وأخيرا أتم بدعائي اللهم رزقنا متابعة النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أولا وآخرا وظاهرا وباطنا وقولا وفعلا وعبادة وعملا صالحا.
In lesson 4, there are teamwork between Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Khadijah binti Khuwailid, the Prophet wife, and Waraqah bin Nawfal, which is father-in-law of the Prophet. When the Prophet was meditating in the cave of Hira, he was approached by Jibril alayhi salam. The angel commanded him to recite the words before him. The Prophet became very afraid when Jibril alayhi salam came. Then the Prophet returned to the home in a pale state and asked his wife Khadijah to cover him with a blanket. The Prophet told Khadijah what happened in the cave of Hira. So the problem solving is Khadijah tried to calm the Prophet because the Prophet in a trauma by remembering Allah. Then Khadijah took the Prophet to meet her uncle, which is Waraqah bin Nawfal. Her uncle was the greatest man in Makkah. Khadijah's purpose in bringing the Prophet to meet her uncle was to calm the Prophet after trauma. The Prophet told Waraqah what happened to him. Then Waraqah told him that the person who had approached him was the guardian whom God had sent down to Musa alayhi salam. The Prophet calmed down after hearing the explanation from Waraqah bin Nawfal. In lesson 5, there are teamwork between Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, King Najashi, and the Sahaba radhiyallahu anhum. The problem is Prophet and Sahaba were migrated to Habsha. When they fled to the Habsha to seek the protection of King Najashi, who was a Christian, they were chased by Quraysh led by Amru al-As. King Najashi then said to the Muslim, "Please go in peace. I am not willing to accept even a mountain of gold as a compensation for one of you being disturbed." With those words, the Muslim refugees were given protection and lived undisturbed in Habsha. The Quraysh representative were sent home with the gift they brought. It is narrated that King Najashi himself finally embraced Islam, while some of the Prophet companions, which is Sahabah radhiyallahu anhum, have pledged allegiance to the Prophet and promised to be loyal to him in order to embrace Islam.
Point of teamwork from lesson 6. Number 1, drinking water crisis management. Water is considered an important resource and factor in everyday life. Without water, a lot of problems will arise. However, at the Madinah, the Jews controlling the water because only people, of course, to enjoy the water. So many water wells controlled by the Jews, among them wells, rumah wells, haja wells, and many others. This is one of the problems faced by Muslims. With the wisdom of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he found a way to overcome the problem. The Prophet invited the companion to buy the wells of Arumah. Then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Whoever buy the wells of Arumah, may Allah forgive him." Because of this, Sayyidina Osman bought the Arumah wells. The Arumah well is one of the largest wells in the Madinah, and after that, Sayyidina Osman gave for free well to the Muslims. Point number 2 from lesson 6, business crisis management. Business among the jobs done in the Madinah Arab and Jewish. However, in the business of the Jews, control and dominate the business spread because the Jews were so greedy and their love of money was extreme. They behaved intolerantly and practiced usury. Business in Medina used the laws and regulation of the Jews. This is because the Jews control and dominate the business in Medina. The Prophet ﷺ realized that this is a serious problem for the residents of Medina, which is that the Jews control the business in bad way and wrongly cause losses to the buyer. But every problem has a solution. With the wisdom of the Prophet ﷺ in dealing with this matter, the Prophet came with the idea of fighting the Jews by building a market next to the Nabawi Mosque. Always there and for the inhabitant of Medina, plus no tax and levy on each item. The Prophet ﷺ also commanded the Hakim bin Hizam to do business with other residents of Medina in order to fight the business of the Jews.
Lesson 7, teamwork between Rasulullah, Quraysh and Sahabah. The Quraysh stole money from the immigrant in Mecca, and they used it to finance their journey to Sham. When they returned from Sham, they were very rich. The Prophet heard about this, and he wanted to punish the Quraysh for doing this. As a great and wise team leader, he told his friend to go to Quraysh and try to get the treasure. As a leader, Rasulullah had arranged a good strategy before he sent the companion to the Quraysh trip to get the property. Rasulullah prepared an army of 300 led by a friend, Ibn Maktum, who was Rasulullah's choice. They were also equipped with horse riders and 70 camels with them. This attack is intended to punish the Quraysh if the property is lost. Team spirit is very important in an organization. The leader needs to organize the strategy well so that everything done goes well. Team's members also need to trust the leader and listen to the instruction given without the objection. Lesson 8. That has two situations. First, when a Muslim man saw what happened to him, he attacked a Jew and killed him. Then, when he tried to stop the Jews, they killed him too. This made the Prophet angry, so he broke the agreement made between the Jews and the Muslims. This situation shows that the brave attitude of the Prophet as a leader, who dared to decide to cancel the peace agreement made. As a team, when they see one of their team being mistreated or killed, then the other team members must be responsible for what happened to the team. The situation, teamwork between Rajulun Muslim, Rasulullah, and Jayshul Muslimin. Next, teamwork between Rasulullah and Jayshul Muslimun. When the Prophet and his companions arrived at the battlefield of Uhud, they found that the people of Uhud have fled the scene. So the Prophet withdrew his army and camped near Uhud. He commanded 50 archers, which was led by Abdullah bin Jubair, to remain on Mount Ainin and watch over the Muslim. Rasulullah told them if birds attack them, they are not allowed to move from their location. And if they see Rasulullah attacking, they also not allowed to move until there is another order. In a team, the direction is important to produce good and quality work. The skills that a person in the team has will be used to strengthen in the teamwork. A wise leader will make good decisions to produce quality work.
So I'm Muhammad Iswah Famously. I will talk about our skill chosen in lesson 9. So in the lesson 9, I've got two situations about the teamwork. So the first situation is relate to the Khandaq war when Medina was besieged by Mushrikeen. This situation have three sides: Rasulullah, Salman al-Farisi, and Islam army. All parties played their respective roles to strengthen the defense, as Rasulullah is gathering the Islamic army to organize a strategy, and Salman al-Farisi has gave the idea to make a trench as a defense, and Islam army work together to make trenches and defend the Medina. So the second situation in this lesson, pledge of allegiance to Prophet Muhammad, and Quraysh made an agreement with the Prophet. So the situation have three sides also, as Rasulullah, as-Sahaba, and Quraysh. These three parties have cooperated, such as Sahaba Bay'ah, and Nabi, and Quraysh discussed to the Nabi without bloodshed. So for lesson 10, there are three situations related to teamwork, and in this lesson, firstly, polytheists have promised to let Muslims enter to Makkah to perform Umrah and stay there for 3 days. And secondly, Bani Khuzayah want to find victory with the Muslims, and all these tribal Bani Ghafar, Bani Aslam, Bani Mazina, Bani Sulim, and Bani Juhayna. All these tribes contribute their troops until the Muslim army reached 10,000 men. In the last situation, the Islamic army still lost because the Hawazin army was able to make the Islamic army chaotic with their arrows. At the time, many Islamic soldiers fled, so the Prophet called back the Islamic army to recognize the strategy. So these three situations shows cooperation in a group. All play their respective roles to make it easier for the group to deal with the problems faced.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So let's looking at lesson 11, teamwork. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with Abu Bakar radhiyallahu anhu and Ali radhiyallahu anhu. In the 9 years of Hijrah, the Prophet was no longer able to perform Hajj with his people, so he recommended Abu Bakar radhiyallahu anhu as a pilgrim guide that year. The messenger also sent Ali to deliver the Prophet's pamphlets to his people. This suggestion the cooperation between the Prophet and Abu Bakar and Ali to launch the movement of pilgrims. So we're still in lesson 11, teamwork Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with Usamah bin Zaid bin Harisah radhiyallahu anhu and Juyus Muslimin. The messenger prepared the military preparation for the Sham, so the Prophet appointed Usamah bin Zaid bin Harisah, ordered him to go to the Baqqa in Palestine to fight Rome. After that, the advice of the messenger to his people. Then in the final sermon, the Prophet delivered many counsels to his people so that his people would not get lost easily, and the Prophet word that made the Quran got to life. Then teamwork Prophet with Abu Bakar. When the messenger was sick, the messenger asked Abu Bakar to be an imam, and he marks Abu Bakar as the leader of the Muslims after the death of the prophets. We continue with lesson 12. Teamwork Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with Aisyah radhiyallahu anha. One of the prophet's wife, Aisyah, stated that the prophet's moral are like the Quran, and it is also supported by Allah in the Al-Quran. The confirmation that has been made is essential to be the main link for mankind. Then, as the leader and the messenger, the Prophet advised his companions and people not to flatter him because he was a servant, but the companions responded to the saying that the Prophet is a servant of Allah and the messenger. This shows how respectful and loving the companions are to the Prophet, the leader of the people. So we still in lesson 12. Teamwork Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam with Amru bin Umayyah and Ummu Habibah and Shalhabi bin Hasanah. The Prophet applied for Ummu Habibah, then Amru bin Umayyah became the Prophet messenger to carry out the proposal. Thus, Ummu Habibah approved the proposal of the messenger, and she donates 400 dinars and sent his representative Shalhabi bin Hasanah as a sign of approving the Prophet's proposal. This can be seen the cooperation that took place between the Prophet and Amru bin Umayyah to convey the Prophet's desire to marry Ummu Habibah.